the EPA looked at all this, and they have their own scientists and they have their own experts in this area. And I like to think, they're a fairly neutral body. I mean, obviously, every body of government has some politics involved, but they don't necessarily make any money if we upgrade a secondary treatment on Honolulu. So they don't really have a particular dog in the fight.
Right.
And they decided that we needed to upgrade. And that decision just came out about a month ago, the final decision.
Okay.
And so the city and county is in the process of appealing that decision. And
but then at the same time, what disturbs me, they come into the legislature with a bill that was introduced at the request of the city to say, we'll just change the water qualities, we'll lower the water quality standards in Hawaii. And then this, they think, would let the city off the hook.
Yeah.
But then the question is that in the best interest of the boaters, the fishers, the swimmers, or not?
I liken this a lot to, you get your hand of cards and you look at your hand of cards and you think, well, I don't like this. I'm just going to change the game we're playing. And that's essentially what I think this is that they're saying, fine, we can't meet these water quality standards, so therefore let's just change them and then all the issues will go away. And so you're right. Hawaii is very dependent on the quality of our water. I mean, nobody doubts that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, our whole tourist industry runs on the fact that we have beautiful waters. But if we don't, and if we let them begin to degrade, I'm concerned not only for people's health, but also for just the health of the economy, because we won't be known as the wonderful place to visit.
Sure. Imagine the impacts of a national news story describing pesticides, for instance, increased level found on Waikiki Beach, and perhaps some illness or a fatality as a result. I mean, it would be devastating to our economy. And we, I think, just can't gamble with that situation. So what we're most alarmed about, really, is the fact that this proposal to change our state water quality standards doesn't really look at what the actual impacts are in Hawaii. There is federal research, and the standards that are proposed are sort of the bare minimum you can adopt. The EPA has promulgated this, and this is sort of the floor on water quality standards. And in the past, Hawaii has rejected these standards because, for example, we eat more fish than the mainland. And
but I rejected them, saying that we want them to be more stringent because...
Exactly. And the concept being, for instance, the fish levels, the federal studies will look at national averages and will say, nationally you consume so much fish, and so therefore there's this amount of pesticide in the fish, it's okay. But here in Hawaii, it's been found we eat 3.1 times more fish than the mainland.
Well, I was just going to read from OHA's testimony in opposition to House Bill 834, and they said, furthermore, federal water quality standards may not be the best measure for Hawaii's unique water quality. What works for the shoreline of the east coast of the mainland United States may not work or even be applicable here. For example, Hawaii has tropical waters fed by our watershed system, which affects the level of bacteria found in our waters. And in the continental U.S., the hydrology and biological inputs are very different. So OHA was very much in opposition of House Bill 834, and for very good reasons, the same kind of things that you're saying.
Yeah, and I would echo that, and I'd also point out the fact that we have the benefit and joy of having waters you can use year-round.
Right.
So we recreationally and as part of our culture use our water, I think, far more than any other state in the United States. We have subtropical waters, which again is different. And if you look at our reef marine ecosystem, it's quite a bit different than the mainland. And so I don't think you can take any science and just willy-nilly apply it to Hawaii and say, well, that'll be fine, and there's going to be no risk or no harm to the public health or to the marine systems, because we're different. I mean, nobody can dispute that.
Well, I want to tell the viewers again, we're discussing House Bill 834, which would lower the water quality standards in Hawaii, and at the same time, it would interfere with an ongoing lawsuit brought by the Sierra Club against the City and County of Honolulu. And Robert Harris, director of the Sierra Club, is with me discussing the reasons why this bill should not go forward. I would encourage viewers, if you're concerned about water quality standards in Hawaii, I would urge you to contact your legislator and ask them not to let this bill move forward. We need your help. Go ahead.
Thank you. So again, to sort of summarize, the principal concern we have is that we're taking sort of the bare minimum standards allowed by the EPA and saying that we're going to go ahead and apply this to Hawaii. And for example, the bill when it was first proposed only dealt sort of narrowly with pesticides and with bacteria levels. And it's now been enlarged quite a bit to basically incorporate all the federal standards. And you know, that's perhaps even more alarming. We're now just taking everything and applying it to Hawaii, and except for a few small exceptions. And there's still a debate, and I think it's going to take a little while to get worked out between the state and city, where the state wants to just entirely adopt the federal standards, where the city is saying, well, where there's no regulations in Hawaii for certain contaminants, let's not adopt the federal regulations, because those require study and analysis as they apply to Hawaii, which is just absolutely incongruous, because if you're saying the federal standards are okay, they should just be okay across the board.
Right.
And so that's perhaps, you know, one of the more disappointing things I've seen. But again, our fundamental position has been you need to look at this as it applies to Hawaii. You need to get the public input, and most particularly, you need to have the scientific research to make sure this is applicable and really works for Hawaii. So let me give you one set example. One of the things that they'd like to do is they'd like to define what is coastal recreational water and what's not coastal recreational water. And so the cutoff is 500 meters. So,
yeah, say that again to the viewers, because I mean, those that are out there in the waters are going to say, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So the cutoff would be is from the shoreline 500 meters out is considered recreational water, since they have a certain allowable permit of pollutants that are allowed to be found there. Anything past that, you have a much lower standard. So if anyone who goes out to Waikiki Beach and, for instance, uses the surf break, knows you're paddling much further out than 500 meters.
Well, of course.
And I think that's probably pretty common in most of the South Shore and the West Shore of Oahu. You're going to find those type of shore breaks. And that doesn't even factor in the consideration of how many paddlers we have. And a lot of times they'll have relay races where they're out there and they'll actually jump out of the boats and get back in and out.
Of course, right.
And fishermen. I mean, you know, obviously we don't do a lot of fishing, you know, within the 500 meter zone. A lot of it's a little bit further out, and you're very much either on the reefs or right past the reefs.